Hey, welcome to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. This is the safe space where we talk openly and honestly about all the things that can come up as we juggle competing priorities and learn how to put ourselves first so that we can flow and flourish in every single area of our lives. In order to do that, though, I believe that you have to understand the connection between your ability to flow and flourish and your capacity. So I have based this podcast on 5 different areas of flow that will help you to increase your capacity for sustainable success throughout your personal and professional life. If you are new to the podcast, then welcome to your tribe of like-hearted and like-minded women who are here to support you, encourage you, and snatch your edges when you need it, because that's what we do here. Just know that you are in good company and are exactly where you're supposed to be. So keep listening. For those of you who are not new to this, but true to this, welcome back to the podcast. I am so thankful for each and every one of you, and I'm excited to get into today's episode, which is being brought to you by the Balance Booster. Yes, the Balance Booster is my 60-minute intensive coaching session where I help you work through one of those different areas of flow. So whether you are looking to establish or reestablish boundaries, figure out how to grow your business or grow in your career, or really just align your actions to your priorities, the Balance Booster is going to be for you. And you can sign up for one of those and learn all about them anywhere on my social media pages or at my website, and of course in the show notes. In the meantime, let's get the show started. Welcome back to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. I am so excited to be here recording and getting this episode to you because it's something really that's been honestly heavy on my heart. And today we're going to be talking about forgiving yourself because it's time, right? We are halfway through 2022 and I'm learning from my clients, from the coaching programs where I'm coaching at, and just talking to my girlfriends that a lot of us are running around practicing forgiveness to other people and a variety of situations, but many of us struggle to forgive ourselves. And so today I'm going to give you a couple of things. Number 1, I'm going to talk about how not forgiving yourself really impacts your capacity because here I'm talking all things capacity, and that's how to manage your time, energy, and resources so that you can show up in excellence in whatever room you're in. Number 2, I'm going to tell you why it's important and or some of the many benefits that come from practicing self-forgiveness, because I promise you, it's so much more than you think. And our ability to forgive ourselves impacts so many other areas of our lives. And number 3, I'm going to give you the how. How do you start the process of forgiving yourself? Because it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, just forgive yourself. But many of us don't even know where to start. And again, this is something that I had to learn on my own. And my goal is to help you get to this place of self-forgiveness sooner, quicker, and faster. So let's talk about it. First of all, let's just get this out of the way and get on the same page and understand that forgiving yourself is a process and it's also a choice. And when you don't forgive yourself, you are holding on to so much mentally, emotionally, and all of those things can take a toll on you physically. Whether you are trying to forgive yourself for staying in a relationship too long, for staying at a job that you have outgrown, or if you're anything like me and you have to forgive yourself for mistakes that you made before you knew better, then you're in the right space. And when I say before you knew better, for me, that really means digging deep and going way back. Now, at the end of this podcast, I'm always asking if you had an opportunity to go back in time and give yourself, your 17-year-old self, a piece of advice, what would it be? And so I go back to shortly after that when I got pregnant at 18. And I did not realize, honestly, probably until 2019, maybe even 2020, that I still hadn't forgiven myself for getting pregnant at that age, dropping out of college, becoming a single mom, and all the things that kind of transpired in between all of that. I was still harboring that, and I didn't even realize it. And so when I say forgiving yourself about things that you didn't really know better about, it's taking the time to really bring awareness to what you're beating yourself up about. Make sense? One of the major things that happens when we do not forgive ourselves is what I like to call this spiral of guilt and shame. It's where you are constantly beating yourself up, and as a consequence, the decisions that you're making are based off of that guilt and shame. And I'll use my example of getting pregnant at 18 and being a single mom. And I think I've shared about this in a previous episode where I mentioned how my parenting style was based off of that guilt and shame, right? But what I didn't realize is that my relationship choices, my money spending and managing habits, my self-esteem and self-worth, all of those things were based off the guilt and shame I felt because I was telling myself I was a failure. I was telling myself that I didn't deserve healthy and loving relationships. And honestly, even that I didn't deserve to rest, right? Because I don't know if you heard this growing up, but if you make your bed, you gotta lay in it. And so I was constantly making decisions, not just off that one situation, but they were all intertwined. When you are in this guilt and shame spiral, it's going to impact not only how you see yourself, but also how you behave. And in 2022, we're not doing that no more. We have to recognize where the guilt and shame is coming from. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably attached to something that you need to forgive yourself for. Now, with that spiral of shame and guilt comes our good friends, anxiety and depression. Not that they need to be anybody's friends, but the reality is many of us are suffering from underdiagnosed or non-diagnosed anxiety and depression because we're not dealing with how we're feeling about stuff that's happened in the past. Now, in the last episode, I talked all about healing from trauma. And I know somebody listening has had something happen that is traumatic that they consider a mistake or they wish they would have made some different choices. And that guilt and shame is causing you to have anxiety and depression. Let's be clear, just because you show up to work smiling and you do for everybody around you and you are high functioning does not mean that on the inside you're struggling with how you really feel about yourself, whether you deserve to be happy, you deserve to rest, because that's a big one, right? The truth is, many of us keep ourselves so busy so that we don't have to think about mistakes or things from the past, or because we don't want to feel all the feels that come from acknowledging what's going on. And that right there takes up your mental capacity. It takes up your emotional capacity. And it takes a toll on you being able to focus, be present, and show up without 99 things floating around in your head. And if you think about it, it's probably the root of the imposter syndrome that many of us either have or will experience at some point. So we gotta be able to bring awareness and get to the root of learning how to forgive ourselves. When you couple the guilt and shame spiral with the anxiety and depression, it leaves you stuck. Just stuck like Chuck, right? Anybody ever heard that? Because I know I have. It leaves you stuck, going in circles, what I call analysis paralysis, and not really being able to move forward, whether that's in your personal or professional life. And if you are one of the women who's out here trying to get the bag, trying to get your coins, trying to live your best life, you can't do that being stuck. Sis, you gotta heal. And the healing starts when you learn how to forgive yourself. And all of that really is based on acceptance, right? And I'm going to talk about that when I get to how to actually forgive yourself. But it's about accepting everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then being able to move forward. And I'm telling you all of this because it's taken me such a long time to just accept who I am, the choices I've made, and to be able to like what I see when I look in the mirror. And that's acceptance. Let's talk about these benefits though, because I literally wrote down like 10 of them. I'm not going to share all 10 because I've been on a soapbox and you know I don't like to keep you long. But one of the ones that really stood out to me was around rebuilding self-trust. Now, how many times have you made a decision, regretted that decision because of the outcome, and then you started to doubt yourself or your ability to make good decisions? Because I know I have. On dating people, on jobs I've taken, on trips I should have known better than to go on. When you have experiences like that, it can cause you to not trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you really go into analysis paralysis. And that's not going to get you anywhere. When you learn how to forgive yourself, it helps you rebuild and repair that trust. It helps give you the confidence to know that you can make good decisions, despite making some not so good ones. And more than anything, especially today, we need to know how to trust ourselves and trust our guts, trust our intuition, trust that spidey sense, whatever it is that you call it, because it's essential for not only your survival, but for you to be able to be out here and flow and flourish in every single area of your life. Now, another major benefit of forgiving yourself is that it gives you better mental and emotional health, right? Because you don't have all those things floating around. You are dealing with the guilt. You're dealing with the shame. You're able to look forward instead of staying stuck in the past and looking in your rearview mirror. And that increases your mental capacity, which then has a direct effect on your ability to be productive, your ability to focus, and your ability to be present. How many times have you been somewhere, whether it was hanging out with your kids or your friends or in a meeting at work, and you were physically there, but mentally you were not? Like you were just checked out thinking about everything else. When you have so much going on in the background, it's almost impossible to be present. And so we got to be able to clear all of that out so we can be in the moment and enjoy what's going on, or that we can retain the information that we need to do our jobs, run our businesses, and have healthy relationships. The last benefit I want to point out that you get from practicing self-forgiveness, and this will come as no surprise, is that you have better physical health, okay? So literally, studies show that when you forgive yourself, it lowers your blood pressure, it decreases the aches and pains that you may have and carry from stress, and you sleep better. So forgiving yourself is so essential to your health flow pillar, right? Your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. You got to have that together in order for you to show up and be out here running the businesses that you either work in or are the CEO of. You have to have your health together in order to be the mom, wife, girlfriend, and any other role that's important to you in your life. You cannot do that without health. So if nothing else, learning how to forgive yourself is going to prolong your life and give you a better quality of life from a health perspective. At this point, you might be saying, you know what, Nicole, all this sounds good, but how do I do that? And so I'm going to give you 3 ways or tips to actually start this process. Because you know I believe that knowing is half the battle, right? You know, now what? So what are you going to do about it? So the first thing that you need to do in order to forgive yourself is acknowledge the situation or mistake. Whether you have to say this out loud to yourself, to someone else, if you need to journal it, if you need to type it out, you have to acknowledge it. You cannot fix what you will not face. And this is probably the hardest part because I know for me, I didn't want to acknowledge where I felt like I'd messed up because it was painful. It made me sad. It hurt like hell. But on the other side of that hurt is the healing. So we have to first and foremost take the time, be honest, and acknowledge whatever situation or situations have us feeling some kind of way. There are a multitude of areas in my life where I look back and I wish I would have made some different decisions. But it wasn't until I brought awareness to them that I was able to heal and grow through them. Like I said, from relationships to jobs that I took or stayed in too long, friendships that were taken more than they were giving. There are so many different situations in your life that I know you can think of, but you got to acknowledge them and you got to call a thing a thing. If it was a mistake, if you're regretful, if you feel bad about it, take the time to acknowledge it so that you can process. Number 2, once you've acknowledged the situation, I need you to change the story that you're telling yourself about it and stop calling it a mistake or an unfortunate circumstance and instead use it as a learning experience. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason and that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And so you have to learn how to shift your perspective. For most of us, when we know better, we do better, right? I've talked about a time in my life when I didn't manage my money so well and was living paycheck to paycheck and utilizing payday loans. That's not one of my proudest moments, but I used it as a learning experience. And now that I know better, I do better. So whatever that situation may be for you, now you know, so you have an opportunity to learn from it and do differently. Now, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, then this is not for you. I'm talking to the people who realize that some of the decisions were not the best and didn't get them the results that they wanted. So you have a choice. I said at the beginning of this that forgiving yourself is a choice. And so is how you frame whatever situation that you need to forgive yourself from. It's a choice. So choose to see it as a learning opportunity and then do something different. Last but not least, and this is the key to all of them, you have to give yourself permission to move forward. I'm going to say it again. You have to give yourself permission to move forward. Acknowledging is one thing, accepting is one thing, but taking action is the bridge. You have to give yourself permission to let go of who you were and embrace who you are now and who you're becoming. Because as long as you keep looking in that rearview mirror, you can't keep your eyes on the road to drive forward. You're going to crash and burn. You are not who you were 5 years ago, 3 months ago. I'm a slightly different version of who I was even a week ago. And when it comes to mistakes and guilt and shame of things that have happened in our past, we have to be the catalyst to move ourselves forward. Nobody can do that except for you. Just as much as you have to give yourself permission to pause, you have to be the one to give yourself permission to move forward. Move forward in the season that you're in. Move forward, becoming the person that you want to become. It's that simple. I know it sounds easier said than done, but this is honestly a mindset and a choice. You have to choose to move forward. You have to choose to let go of the old version of you. You have to choose to embrace who you are and where you're going. Because without that, you're going to keep going in circles. You're going to stay stuck and you won't really be able to move forward. I want you to have the capacity to show up in excellence in every single area of your life. And you cannot have capacity if you're holding on to things that you need to forgive yourself from. Okay? I want that for you. I know you want that for you too. So let's do the work and start the process of forgiving yourself. And you already know if you need or want help with that process just to get out of your own head, you know I'm a message away. Send me an email, find me on social media. I'm here and I'm ready to help. Before I end this episode, I do want to tell you that I think the podcast is going to be coming back. every single week starting in July. And I'm super excited about it because I have missed recording. I have missed engaging. So I need you to stay tuned. Make sure that you're checking back. And of course, if this episode has blessed you, then I need you to make sure you help other people find it. So that means you need to go ahead and leave a review, share it with at least 3 women that you know, and then come tell me how this has helped you. If you had an aha moment, tag me in social media. I love to know how the episodes are helping you. As for our episode in 2 weeks, it's going to be a very special one because we know that Father's Day is coming up. I'm going to be sharing some things that I learned from my father. And I think that as ladies, there are things that we've learned from the men in our life, and I want to take the time to acknowledge those things. So make sure that you're tuning in to the new episode in 2 weeks. And until then, I thank you for being a loyal listener. Thank you for pouring into yourself by taking in this podcast. And thank you for allowing me to be your capacity coach. Until then, I pray you have a blessed week and that you use all the tools and resources available to you, including me, to help you create balance between your personal and professional life without ever having to sacrifice what matters most to you. Talk to you soon.